Welcome to Build Strong Habits podcast channel. Sit back, relax, take your eyes off the screen, and listen. Just listen to this audio podcast, and let's start building habits that transform our life.
Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going deep on willpower. Well, kind of. We're looking at it through the lens of, get this, the Miranda warning.
The Miranda warning.
Yep, you have the right to remain silent. You know the one.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. It might seem like an odd connection at first, but it's a really good example of what we call a bright line rule.
Oh, yeah, bright line rule. I kind of remember that from law school. What was that again?
Well, a bright line rule is basically like a super clear rule. There's no room for interpretation. Like, it's just straightforward.
Right.
And that's really important when you're dealing with, serious stuff, like in the legal system.
Yeah, for sure makes sense in that context.
So you've got this famous case, Ernesto Miranda, back in 1966, and that's where the Miranda warning comes from. It basically tells the police, hey, when you arrest someone, here's exactly what you got to do. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Right. So everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. Keeps things fair, keeps things consistent. You don't want any misunderstandings messing up a whole case.
Gotcha. So that's bright line rules in the legal world.
Yeah.
But how does this apply to, everyday life and willpower?
All right, well, think about those goals we all set for ourselves. Eat healthier, save more money, or spend less time doom scrolling on my phone, all right?
Yeah, those are good ones. Guilty as charged.
Uh-huh. We've all been there. Oh, but the thing is, those goals, they're kind of fuzzy,
Fuzzy?
Yeah, like they're not very specific. It's like setting off on a road trip with no map and just a vague idea of where you want to end up.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
You might eventually get there, but it's going to be a lot harder, a lot more frustrating too.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like those goals are always the first to go out the window.
Exactly. And that's where our friend, the bright line rule, comes in. Instead of those fuzzy goals, you set up clear boundaries, make them concrete.
Oh, okay. So how would you turn those fuzzy goals, like eat healthier, into a bright line rule?
Easy. Instead of eat healthier, it's like no sugary drinks during the week, Or instead of save more money, it's I automatically transfer $100 to savings every payday.
Makes sense, yeah.
It takes out the best work. No more debating with yourself.
So it's like setting those rules in advance and just sticking to them.
Exactly. Like a personal code.
A code of conduct, yeah.
And here's the cool part. It saves your willpower. We only have so much mental energy each day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And we waste so much of it, going back and forth. Should I have that cookie? Should I hit snooze again?
Oh, I know that feeling.
But with bright lines, you've already made the decision. It's like you're on autopilot.
Yeah.
Frees up your willpower for other stuff, more important stuff.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. Instead of fighting temptation, you're just like, nope, not even an option.
You got it. No internal debate needed.
I like it.
And it's less mentally draining, too. It takes a lot of effort to keep comparing everything to these vague standards, right? Bright lines, boom, crystal clear. You either do it or you don't. No more mental tug of war. You have more brain power for the things that matter.
That sounds almost too good to be true. Is there a catch?
Well, you got to put in a little work up front. Got to define those bright lines carefully. Make sure they really fit with what you want in life.
Makes sense.
But once you've got them in place, oh man, it can make a huge difference. Think of it like those bumpers in a bowling alley,
Oh, yeah. The guardrails?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't stop you from bowling, but they help keep you on track, right? You don't end up in the gutter.
So, I love that analogy. So it's about giving yourself some structure, not restricting your freedom.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. It's like support, helping you succeed. And here's another thing. You can use bright lines for breaking bad habits, too, not just building good ones.
Ooh, okay. Now you've got my attention. Tell me more about that.
So let's say you're trying to, cut back on something. Like doom scrolling on social media.
Okay, yeah. That's a good one. Definitely guilty of that. So how would a bright line help with that?
Well, instead of just saying, okay, less screen time, you could make a bright line. Like, no social media after 8 p.m.
Oh, interesting.
That way, it's a hard stop. No more arguing with yourself at 10 p.m. about just checking one more notification.
Yeah. And what if you, mess up one night? Is that, the end of the world?
Bro, not at all. You just get back on track the next day.
Right.
It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent, And the more consistent you are, the more it starts to change your habits. It can even change your identity.
Wait, change your identity. What do you mean by that?
Well, think about it. Every time you resist something, but you don't have that bright line in place, you're kind of telling yourself, well, I'm the kind of person who struggles with this.
Oh, yeah, I see.
But with a bright line, it's different. Instead of saying, I can't have that, you're saying, I don't do that.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's not about deprivation. It's about, like, aligning your actions with who you want to be,
Right.
that ideal version of yourself.
So it's less about what you're giving up and more about, like, who you're becoming.
Exactly. It's a subtle difference, but it's really powerful.
Okay, that's really interesting. So it's like you're creating this, like, new persona, almost, that embodies these good habits.
You got it. And every time you stick to your bright lines, that persona gets stronger.
Like building a muscle, but for self-control.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. But what about bigger goals? You know, stuff that's not as simple as, like, cutting out sugar or limiting screen time. Can bright lines work for that too?
Oh, totally. Bright lines can be amazing for big goals like career stuff, creative projects, even relationships. The key is to break those big goals down into smaller chunks, actions that you can do consistently with clear boundaries.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. So let's say you want to write a novel.
Okay, yeah,
That's a huge goal, right? Can feel kind of overwhelming.
sure.
But what if you set a bright line? Like, I'm going to write for 1 hour every morning before I check my email or social media.
Mm-hmm.
You're making progress, little by little every day.
Yeah, I guess it's like that saying, how to eat an elephant. One bite at a time.
Exactly. And because you've got that boundary in place, you're less likely to get sidetracked, less procrastination.
This is giving me so many ideas. What about using bright lines for money stuff, like financial goals?
Oh, that's a perfect one. Instead of just trying to save more, you could set a bright line, like automatically transferring a percentage of your paycheck into savings.
Oh, that's smart. Like set it and forget it.
Yep. Takes the emotion out of it.
Yeah. It's like you don't even have to think about it.
Exactly. And over time, that adds up. You're building those good financial habits without even trying.
I'm like seeing bright lines everywhere now.
I know, right? It's a game changer. And one thing that might surprise you is how flexible bright lines can be.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I thought they were supposed to be like strict and unbreakable.
Well, it's all about finding the right balance, Bright lines should be firm, definitely, to give you that structure, but they also need to be flexible enough to adapt to, real life.
Okay, that makes sense. But
Mhm.
how do you do that? How do you find that balance?
It's about being mindful, I think. Paying attention to your own needs and what's going on around you. Like if
Yeah.
you have a bright line of no sweets during the week, but it's your best friend's birthday and they made you a cake, it's okay to enjoy a slice,
Yeah.
The key is to be deliberate about it. Don't just mindlessly indulge.
So it's not about being like dogmatic. It's more about being thoughtful.
Exactly. Bright lines, they're tools, not rules. They're supposed to help you, not control you.
I like that. So it's finding that sweet spot between structure and flexibility.
Yes. And sometimes it takes a little experimentation, What works for one person might not work for another.
So you have to kind of figure out what works best for you.
Exactly. The more you pay attention to how different bright lines affect you, the better you get at choosing the right ones, the ones that really work for you.
This is making me rethink everything. It's like a whole new way to think about, self-improvement.
I'm glad you're finding it helpful. And what's really cool is that this whole concept, it's not just for individuals. You can apply it to groups and organizations too.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Tell me more about that.
Yeah.
So we were talking about bright lines for groups and organizations. What did you mean by that?
Well, let's take company culture, for example.
Right.
A lot of companies have these vague values statements like, we value integrity or we're customer focused,
Right.
But those are just words often, right? Nobody really knows what they mean in practice.
Yeah, they're kind of like up on a plaque somewhere, but no one really pays attention to them.
Exactly. So instead of those vague statements, you could have bright lines around things like meeting etiquette or how people communicate, even how decisions get made.
Oh, okay. So it's about taking those big ideas and turning them into like concrete actions.
Exactly. It's like you're baking those values into the way the organization actually works day to day.
And I bet this could apply to other groups too, right? Like teams working on a project or even families.
Absolutely. Think about a family that's trying to, be more mindful of screen time. They could have a bright line like no phones at the dinner table.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a clear expectation, right? No more arguing about just one more minute.
Yeah, I can see that working. So it's about creating those like shared boundaries that help everyone stay on track.
Exactly. And it creates a sense of, accountability, fairness. Everyone knows what the rules are. Everyone plays by the same rules.
Makes sense. So we're starting to see how these bright lines, they can be pretty powerful, right? Not just for us as individuals, but for groups too.
And you know what's interesting? This whole concept of bright lines, it really ties back to that Miranda warning we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah. Right. We started this whole thing with the Miranda case. I'm curious, what do you see as the connection there?
Well, just like those bright line rules in the law, they're there to make sure things are fair, that everyone's treated the same. And when we use them in our own lives, for our goals, our habits, it's kind of like we're creating our own system, you know?
Credit rules.
Exactly, like our own personal justice system to keep ourselves accountable.
I love that. It's like we're writing our own personal constitution almost for how we want to live our lives.
Exactly. And just like a constitution, those bright lines, they give us that foundation for stability, for growth. They help us, navigate life with more clarity, with more purpose.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. Really makes you think about willpower in a whole new way.
And the best part is, it's something we all have the power to do. We don't have to just be at the mercy of our impulses or whatever's going on around us. We can actually design our lives intentionally.
I like that. Well, everyone, I think it's safe to say, after this deep dive, our understanding of willpower is never going to be the same. It's not just about being strong, gritting your teeth and pushing through. It's about setting those clear boundaries, making choices on purpose, and building systems that help us succeed.
Yeah, it's about setting ourselves up for success. And the coolest thing is, it's not about being perfect. It's about finding what works for you and, adjusting things as you go along.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of bright lines, we want to leave you with a question. What's one area of your life where you could benefit from a little more clarity, a little more structure?
What's one small change you can make, starting today, to bring you closer to those goals you have, to create a life that feels more, more in line with who you truly are?
We encourage you to try it out, experiment, find those bright lines that work best for you, and embrace the power of, I guess you could call it, bright line living.
Absolutely. Until next time, happy diving, everyone.
And remember, sometimes the simplest solutions can be the most powerful. We'll catch you on our next deep dive for another exciting exploration of ideas.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Build Strong Habits. Let us know in the comments how you feel about it and what topics you'd love to hear next. Always remember, we're here to build strong habits together.